Most people think efficiency is the key to achieving massive results, but the truth is that effectiveness is actually the key to any high level of performance that's worth putting effort into. From hustling to make money while you're getting good grades in college, to being the best friend you could possibly be while making time for your family and work, to the crazy stuff that's still possible in your 20s, like making your first $1 million without letting your ego ruin you, so to speak. If you can't be effective, you'll lose. But what does that even mean, this word effective? Well, maybe the best way to paint a picture of being effective might be to understand clearly what it actually means to be the opposite, or ineffective. As any leader worth their salt knows, when you really care about leadership and you dig deep into what it takes to impact people that you lead, help them to catch the vision of the results they could achieve and the impact they could have, you really begin to uncover the toughest questions. So here are just a few that I've heard. How do you balance the demands, school, family, church, all the personal, professional, even religious or spiritual areas of their life, in the middle of constant problems, deadlines, pressures, demand for results? And really, those demands come from your ambitions and your goals. How do I do that and achieve things that I want? How do I use my competitiveness, balance that to win and achieve with the things I want and get the results I want while being genuinely happy for the success and achievement and growth competencies of those around me? Like, this comparison game is really real. How do I maintain control of the results and my team that produces those results, yet still give them the freedom, the autonomy that they need to be effective in learning for themselves and earning the results effectively for themselves? That balance of control and autonomy is very real. How do I get my team to internalize their own desire to live with excellence and embrace the joy of continuous improvement, constantly growing? And these challenges are all things that stem from high ambitions, high determination. These are what we call dilemmas. Dilemmas are what we stated above, right? How do I do two things? That's a dilemma. When you have two good things you want, but it just doesn't seem possible to have both. It's like a win-lose or a compromise with yourself. Dilemmas are good because if you look at them closely, they just reveal a bad paradigm or a bad way of viewing the problem or the issue. If you take it seriously, you'll be empowered with the framework that solves the toughest questions and dilemmas, like the ones we stated above. But if you don't take it seriously, you'll tend to use, as Stephen Covey says, hit and miss, seat of the pants, quick fix, aspirin and a band-aid approaches to living and problem solving. Okay, so this word effective and principles, we throw these words around a lot, but maybe it's helpful to at least paint a picture of what it looks like to be ineffective. I was just reading a book about Charles Manson because I'm trying to relate to my wife because she likes murder mysteries. I was imagining, like, if you walked into Charles Manson's room and you saw this like credo or poster that had like his rules by which he lived, it probably embodies something like the rules of ineffectiveness. That's a really stupid example, but in order to demonstrate effectiveness, it's helpful to first view what it's like to be ineffective. Okay, came up with the 7 rules for ineffectiveness. This is kind of fun. You guys ready? Rule number 1: be the victim always, with no real understanding of yourself, and you got to be lying to yourself too all the time, either too high on yourself or too low, but never ever be accurate about who you are or where you're at. Rule number 2: work like crazy without any clear goals, but take the rewards that come and claim them as your own, as if you knew exactly how you got them, constantly changing course from one cloudy vision to the next. And then short-term results and instant reward are all that matter, and they should never come at the expense of any well thought out or meaningful objective. There's a hint here. The easiest way to avoid the pain of setting yourself up for failure by thinking about the long-term impact you could have, because that's what you do, right? If you think about the long-term impact, you set yourself up for failure. That's painful. Is to drown out that feeling with contention, gossip, empty YouTube videos, edgy music, movies, little sleep, and even less dreaming. Also, make sure that if you want to be ineffective, that you never hit the like on videos like this so you don't ever stumble across something valuable. You wouldn't want that, obviously. Definitely don't subscribe because you might see something good that could potentially change your life. And for sure, don't check out our link in the description where you can see that we're hiring, looking for ambitious college-age entry-level sales reps. Our average is between $45,000 and $100,000 made in personal earnings in a 4-month period, so on your summer break. Rule number 3 of ineffectiveness: always manage by crisis, and make sure you do the urgent things always first. And then when that becomes too hard, be sure to hide away behind the screen or your controller, joystick, whatever, so you have relief until all of the ignored demands just start to build up and then they just become too painful. Or you can take the other approach for this rule, and this is only if you need to pretend to feel good about your efforts. Trick yourself into the need for diminishing motivational return by using, you guys know this, right? The hype up videos, hard talk motivational stuff. Maybe watch a podcast that's super motivational or listen to someone who probably curses a lot or whatever. It takes discipline to manage yourself by crisis, right? So gear up, It's hard, get dirty, make it happen. You're going to crash and burn, but just rinse and repeat. Rule number 4, relationships are a zero-sum game. This one kind of hits home, okay? So be sure to only view the fruits of relationships, which they should be love and care, but that's what everyone wants you to think. What they really are, especially in this cutthroat competitive world, right? Sales, it's just pleasure and gratification. So either way, view those as scarce resources, especially in sales and business, and especially with your team below you, and then obviously your leaders above you as well. But remember, the closer you are to your team, or anyone for that matter, the more you have to coerce them and manipulate them. And for your leader above you, please them to get what they have that you want, because that's the point of leadership, right? Is to have something that everyone else wants, but play hardball most of the time, or subtly play hardball. Maximize the gains in the short term. Be sure to get what's yours, and then whether it's even perceived as good or not, if it serves you, that's all that matters, whatever it takes. Rule number 5 of ineffectiveness, always make sure your point is made loud and clear, but consider how everyone else feels only after you've made that point loud and clear. Other people's views can and always must fit into the service of your own, which is why it's important and imperative that you're persuasively forceful with yours. So the louder and clearer, the better. Rule number 6, you guys are gonna love this one, okay? Never lose. Blaze your own trail, contribute to no one. It's all about you. Only consider working with people that are like you. It's not worth it to work through problems with anyone else. Only talk someone up behind their back if it serves you though, okay? But if it doesn't, remember everyone's a threat. And if they don't serve your purposes, make sure to tear them down. The better you get at this, the more subtle the messaging, it makes it more useful. If you need to be seen as the good guy, only ever compromise, nothing more. Rule number 7 of the rules of ineffectiveness, be very afraid of change and make sure that you really feel threatened by it. Fight against improvement and character development like it's the plague. You have to use your competitiveness and drive for results as the only real excuse to hold yourself to no consistent moral standard. So never seek feedback or work on yourself or your health. But if you go do that, focus on it so much that instead of being a means to an end, actually being healthy or sharpening the saw to improve yourself, have a greater capacity to like love and contribute to your people around you. Instead of that, make sure you become obsessive enough that it becomes the end itself. The more short-sighted, the better, obviously. As I was listing these things out and kind of trying to model some of the ways COVEY talks about the problems and how it's helpful to see it from the opposite perspective in leadership, I was really trying to talk to many versions of my younger self at their extreme. Those things kind of hit really deeply for me. Personal wins, private victories, they always precede public victories. Your outward success as a leader is fundamentally dependent on the inward success with yourself. At the same time, it's the same for any outward accomplishment in any relationship too. It's hyper dependent on your inward focus of character. It's first having success with yourself. What's interesting is that the same principle that makes lasting success with your team and other relationships true, it also makes the flip side of it true. So failure to lead and manage yourself precedes and front runs embarrassing outward failures. Those are just downstream effects. The embarrassment of not achieving and making a fool of yourself and having to constantly try to cover up and pretend that you're something that you're not. That's just a downstream effect of not paying the price for success with yourself. Kind of hard to stomach. That principle is at play still. So this is a really interesting concept from COVEY. Just as there's this maturity continuum, that's like an upward progression. You go from being a dependent person to independent to being able to work well with others, and interdependence, create something that you couldn't create on your own, having meaningful relationships in that way. There's also what COVEY calls the immaturity continuum. You go from this state of dependency on the ones above you and around you, your leadership, the company itself, where really everyone must provide for your basic needs and satisfy every want and desire. Your leaders are the thing that makes things happen for you. And if they don't, you're disappointed. And you move to counterdependency, which is even worse, where you engage in this like fight or flight behavior. You're lying and deceptive. You start with lying to yourself, and then that extends to others, and protecting your fragility, running around and pretending that things are not the way that they actually are, especially with yourself. Then you move to the state of codependency, which is the absolute worst and most broken state, where with your peers, and even worse, you cooperate with your team in ways that are rather destructive, from secretly like hurtful ways like gossip and backbiting to more vicious ways of like slander and reputation damage of people around you, which really happens for yourself as well when you do that. Then you collaborate with your peers in leadership and other people who you don't actually work for, or they don't work for you, but you work with them. You enter this weird like state of social collusion. You both just decide that you're going to be mutually destructive for yourselves. Literally anyone that wants to go become a powerful force for good, which is what leadership is, and lead others in a meaningful and impactful way, it should beg the question, how can we break these bad habits and replace them with new ones? Because we all suffer from this at some level, right? And how can I escape the the pull of the past and recreate ourselves to achieve a meaningful change in our own personal lives and with our teams, which is where it becomes really fun, really important. The 7 rules of ineffectiveness. This is just a satirical way to understand what it means to be effective and to be an effective person, which we've already established is the key to success and to achieving massive results and having a profound impact in the lives of the people that you care about while achieving the big money goals and the other things that you want in life, the external results. You just take the opposite of each of these rules, incorporate it into your life, and voila, you're making millions and you're an effective person and you're happy forever. I'm joking slightly, but maybe a little serious. So check this out. In our sales org, we actually do teach what it means to be an effective individual strategically, and then implementation tactically of how to achieve high level of production and sales. You don't need any background at all to even apply these things, and it's better than a college education in my opinion at this point, which has led to this guy making $100,000 plus in his first year of management, this guy making over $200,000, and then this guy making over $300,000. These are college age kids, I'm like basically similar age as them, in their early 20s, dozens and dozens more that started just trying to pay for school, and the earnings and learnings that they had in our program have become life-changing. So we're hiring right now if you're interested in seeing what that journey might look like. No pressure whatsoever because it's actually not a good fit for everyone, but the link is in the description. You can predict your income and see what you might make. We've got a strategic way to do that with personality profiles compared to our top earners. Either way, if you like the content on this video, be sure to like it and subscribe for more. Also check out one of these next videos since they're the ones that YouTube thinks you might find valuable next.